Alright, let's pick up where we left off. In this part, we will, take this whole thing forward. Receive, uh, we'll receive this created U event back to GameMaker, and then we'll also update our position and see it happening live on this player's array. So let's just see that happen. Firstly, we have to tell this client that yeah, we did create U. So for that, um, I told you guys the way to do it is ws.send because we are just sent now. We don't do anything else here because we're just sending it to this WebSocket. So websocket.send. And now how do we send this? We can again do it like a JSON string, and that would go like this. We have some kind of a string, and we'd want to say we'll even use some kind of event system here. So it's a event name created you. So that's a confirmation you have been created. And one important thing is we'll have to tell the player its ID. This is like the player's unique identifier, and we'll have to tell him his ID. So ID will be again client ID, same variable that's been there. Okay. Now this is a dictionary. How do we again make it into a string-like format? We say JSON dot stringify and close it along this. That's it. So we have this is what we are sending to the client now. Whenever the client gives a create player request, we are creating the player and then we are telling the player we have created you. Now we need some mechanism on the client side to process this whole thing. So let's do that. And if you guys remember so when we receive anything from the server, this is the case of connection confirmation, not create player confirmation. This is the connection confirmation. And here we'll process any data we receive. So whenever we say ws.send, if it's even a string saying hi, that will appear right here. So how do we process that now? To process that, we'll have to actually use some more another format, and I have the format here. I'll show it to you guys. All right, now let's do reading data from the server. As you guys know, whatever comes in this async load dictionary. So firstly, we'll go to that and we'll say it actually comes in a buffer again. So I'll just call that buffer raw. Okay, is equal to async load. So this is the information again wrapped in a buffer. Now we'll have to process this. So var buffer process. I'm sorry, my names are pretty bad, but it's that'll be buffer read. Again, you don't need to remember these. It's just boilerplate. So treat it that way. Buffer read. I think it's the buffer ID. So buffer raw. And the type is buffer text. Now we have processed this, and what this buffer process variable holds is nothing but this as a string, this dictionary. So the JSON stringified version of this dictionary with this event name and this ID. So let's go ahead and make it a real dictionary, a real DS map. So to make it a DS map, let's call it real data again, and that will be JSON. And now, you see JSON decode takes a string. So it takes a string and makes it into a DS map. JSON encode takes a DS map and makes it into a string. There's parse and stringify here too, but we use these two. So JSON decode of buffer processed. Okay. And good. Now you guys know we have, let's see what we have to do now. Now from the server, we'll send many things with different event names. First, we'll tell we have created you. Then, if this player is killed, we would, that event name would be we have destroyed you. So destroyed you. So it can be many things. So we again need a switch statement mechanism. So we have switch. Um, the event name is, let me just make another variable for that. Var event name is equal to real data question. Oops. Switch event name, and in the switch statement we'll again have case created you. So this is one event from the server. So this confirmation of player creation. So created you. Inside this, just put the break first, and then yeah. Now one important thing here is global dot. We have to now put the client ID as real data of client ID, right? So that would be here. Client. Now, what did I call it? Let's go back here. It would be ID. So yeah, it's just ID, and yeah, now we can put it in a small variable called client ID, but it would be better. This is a very, it's a big deal. This is your unique identifier. So let me just call it global dot client ID and save that as this. And in the create event, I'll initialize it to 0. Okay. So 0 means it's not connected, I guess, and it's not been assigned a player till it's 0, and then once it's changed, because it starts from 1, uh, then it would be real data of ID. In fact, let me just make this surely an integer, so real. Okay. So this now is good, and I'll just show message, and I'll put in string of global dot client ID is our ID. And let me just go ahead and use HTML. It's fine. It's not a big deal. So wait, is the server running? I just destroyed. Run it all again. Wait, did I see something here? Oops, I did not name it properly. Sorry. So if I'm gonna have to stop it again and run it again. This is the same Notion page. Again, link in description for this whole series. So I'll go here, run this again. So, okay, now, okay, it should have said something when you received when it received this thing. So wait, did this code not execute, or what happened? Data event name. Okay, I did show debug message. So it actually shows it here in more tools, dev tools. Wow. And it's clear as day right there. 2 is our ID. Wow. Takes as a failed project. Okay. So a failed run. But anyways, it is working. Now let's get started on, updating this player's X and Y coordinates on the server. If you remember, we initialized it to 0, 0, but we need to keep updating it. That's how others, firstly we'll update it to the server, then we'll make the server tell other players. So let's quickly do that. And this format to send data to the server does not change, so you can copy it. And in the step event, there's a movement code, and down here I'll say position update to server code. Cool. Now, okay, how do you change this? Now I'll let the event name here be position update. And what do we want to send here? We want to send our x coordinate, our y coordinate, and if anything else is important to you guys, yeah, so data x. Similarly, we'd send y. If anything else is important to you guys, you have guns or anything, you would send the state of the gun or anything. It wouldn't be a position update, it would be a state update. But you have to update to the server. Okay, we have done this much, and yeah. Now let's see how the server would process this. Let me also speed up a little. And this is one case where it's create a player request. Now I'll try to make another case for position update. Yeah, and you guys know what is the player doing now. The player is sending. Yeah, another thing which is important here is how will the server know that this player is this player. It's very important to send the ID. So let me just do that. ID is equal to global dot client ID. See how that variable is very useful. Now, yeah, so here we would take the ID, which is var uh, client's ID, this client ID. I'm sorry, I'm just putting something. Real data dot ID. So this is the ID that the client has sent us. So what are we gonna do now? We have to, go to our uh, players array, find out which player this is, and then update the x and y. That's how we do it. So we say for let I in players, and yeah. Now let's take this particular element. So that's players I. So we have selected one element dot id. So we've taken that player's id, and we are checking it if it is okay. If statement here. If this is equal to this client ID. So I'm just going to put it as real data.id. Real data.id. This real data.id is the ID that the client is saying it. Jake is sending a position update. So Jake will send in real data.id his ID. It's just this one. So yeah, so if we have found the right player, then we should update players I, this players dot x to real data dot x. Same for y. I hope I'm actually able to do it in 2 hours. I mean, yeah, we have actually finished a huge chunk by this point, just after this. And okay, now let me just, every time we get a position update, let me try and, print it. So how would I print it? Let me just say for, yeah, just print players. Console dot log players. This is huge load on Node.js though. I mean, printing it again and again, but it's fine. Node.js can handle that. So I'm saving it, canceling this fully, running it again. Same here. Okay, now you guys can see it's kind of annoying because it's going up and down, but you guys can see that the x, okay, it is really annoying. But you guys can see the x and y is kind of updating. Man, seriously, this is hard to read, but yeah. Um, you guys can see Jake's. You know what? I'm just going to stop. When you click on Node.js, it stops. So now it's 446 and 368. So I'll run it again. And now when I take this here, the X value should be really low, right? So stop it, click on it, you can see the X value is 48. So it's, yeah, you can see the client has sent us this. This is the position update thing. So, this whole thing that we packaged into data is being read here as position update ID1. This is the X coordinate, this is the Y coordinate. Yeah. So we have in fact done the whole position update thing. I'm deleting this. It should not be logged. Okay. And I'm just gonna go ahead and save it. For now, we have updated our position to the server successfully. How big is this video? It's only 5 minutes. That's cool. I'll do it in the next part. Whatever the next part is.